Abandoned twin girls are rescued by a homeless man until a billionaire sees everything and discovers a truth no one ever imagined. Lily's shrill cry pierced the crisp morning air in Cedar Grove's public park. Amanda Suarez, 25, felt her heart pound as she watched her 5-year-old daughter race toward the swings. Rose, Lily's identical twin, clung to her leg, wide-eyed with fear. "Lily, wait!" Amanda called, her voice quavering. She scooped Rose into her arms and sprinted after Lily, her footsteps heavy on the dew-soaked grass. As she neared the swings, Amanda felt a wave of nausea. Her mind swirled with dark thoughts. "You can't do this," they whispered. "You're a monster." With trembling hands, Amanda placed Rose beside Lily on the swing. The girls giggled, oblivious to their mother's torment. Amanda forced a smile, memorizing every detail of their faces, the golden curls, the bright blue eyes, the innocent smiles. "Mommy's going to get something to eat, okay?" Amanda said, her voice catching. "Stay here and play. I'll be right back." Lily waved excitedly. Rose, always more perceptive, frowned. "Promise, Mommy?" Amanda swallowed hard, tears burning in her eyes. "I promise, my love. Mommy always comes back." With one last agonizing glance, Amanda turned and began to walk away. Each step felt like a battle, but she kept going, her walk becoming a desperate run as soon as she was out of the girl's sight. Only when she reached her old car, parked 3 blocks away, did Amanda allow the tears to fall. She climbed in and slammed the door, her sobs echoing in the silence. "I'm so sorry," she murmured between gasps. "I'm so sorry, my girls." With shaking hands, Amanda started the car and pulled out of the parking lot, leaving behind not just her daughters, but also a part of her soul. As Amanda drove away from the park, her mind drifted to the events that had led her to this unimaginable moment. 6 years earlier, Amanda had been a young woman full of dreams. Fresh out of high school, she planned to be the first in her family to attend college. Her parents, immigrants from Mexico, couldn't have been prouder. One summer night changed everything. Amanda met James at a party. He was older, charming, and successful. What began as a summer fling quickly became something deeper, or so Amanda thought. When she discovered she was pregnant, Amanda was terrified. She tried to tell James, but he had vanished. Her deeply religious parents were devastated by the news. The dream of college evaporated, replaced by the harsh reality of being a single mother at 20. The birth of the twins should have been the happiest moment of her life. Instead, it marked the beginning of a nightmare Amanda never imagined possible. Postpartum depression hit her like a freight train. The days blurred into a grey haze of diapers, bottles, and incessant crying. Amanda could barely get out of bed, let alone properly care for 2 small children. Her parents tried to help at first, but the tension soon became unbearable. Arguments were constant. "If you had listened to us," her mother would say repeatedly, "none of this would have happened." Unable to bear the toxic environment, Amanda took the twins and left home at 21. She found a low-paying job as a waitress and rented a tiny apartment in the suburbs. During the day, she left the girls at a cheap daycare, spending sleepless nights worrying about their safety. Bills piled up, the rent was always late, and the fridge was often empty. Amanda found herself choosing between buying food for the girls or paying the electricity bill. The constant stress only worsened her depression, creating a vicious cycle she couldn't escape. As Lily and Rose grew, their distinct personalities began to emerge. Lily was the adventurous one, always ready to explore. Rose was quiet and introspective, preferring to curl up with a storybook. Amanda loved her daughters deeply, but each day became a bigger struggle. She felt like she was drowning, unable to provide the life her girls deserved. Guilt consumed her, fueling dark thoughts that kept her awake at night. It was during one of those sleepless nights that the terrible idea began to form in her mind, and once planted, it refused to go away. Back in the present, Amanda pulled over onto a deserted shoulder. She glanced at the back seat, where the girls' backpacks still lay, stuffed with toys and snacks for a day at the park that would never happen. The reality of what she had done slammed into her. An anguished scream tore from her lips, echoing in the car's silent interior. Amanda folded over the steering wheel, her body shaking with uncontrollable sobs. "What have I done?" she cried into the silence. "Oh God, what have I done?" Part of her wanted to turn around, race back to the park, and embrace her daughters, but fear and shame paralyzed her. How could she face them now? With trembling hands, Amanda picked up her phone, hesitating before dialing the police. But before she could press call, the phone slipped from her sweaty hands and fell to the car floor. Leaning down to grab it, her eyes fell on a crumpled photo tucked into the visor. It was a selfie taken a few months ago on the twins' 5th birthday. In it, Amanda was grinning widely, Lily and Rose in her arms, all three with frosting-smeared faces. Amanda traced her daughters' smiling faces with a shaking finger. How could she have thought they would be better off without her? With sudden resolve, Amanda started the car again. She would go back for her girls. No matter how hard it was, they would face this together. But when Amanda arrived at the park, her heart sank. The playground was empty, no sign of Lily or Rose. Panic gripped her as she ran back and forth, calling their names. "Lily! Rose! Where are you? Mommy's here!" But there was no response. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows over the deserted park. Amanda sank to her knees on the grass, the crushing reality of what she had done finally hitting her. She had abandoned her daughters, and now they were gone. Meanwhile, on the other side of the park, two small figures walked hand in hand, lost and afraid. "Rose, I'm scared," Lily whispered, squeezing her sister's hand. "Where's Mommy?" Rose, always the more sensitive of the two, felt tears sting her eyes. "She said she'd come back," she replied, her voice trembling. "She promised." The twins wandered around the park, calling for their mother as the sky darkened. Lily, usually so brave, felt her heart thump with fear. Rose, typically shy, forced herself to be strong for her sister. As the first stars appeared, the girls huddled together under a large oak tree. Clinging to each other, shivering with cold and fear, they finally allowed the tears to fall. "Mommy will find us," Lily said between sobs, more to reassure herself than to comfort Rose. "She always finds us when we play hide-and-seek." Rose didn't answer. She just held Lily tighter, her eyes fixed on the shadows that seemed to move around them. As the night wore on, fear gave way to exhaustion. The twins fell asleep in each other's arms, their last whispered words a promise: "We'll stay together no matter what." And so, abandoned by the mother they loved and trusted, Lily and Rose spent their first night alone in the world. They had no idea their journey was only beginning, and that destiny had surprising plans in store for them. Meanwhile, Amanda drove aimlessly around the city, consumed by guilt and desperation. After hours of indecision, she finally stopped in front of a police station. With a heavy heart and tears in her eyes, she stepped out of the car, determined to do what was right, even if it meant facing the consequences of her actions. The future was uncertain, full of dangers and possibilities. But one thing was certain: the lives of Amanda, Lily, and Rose would never be the same. Dawn arrived cold and unforgiving at Cedar Grove's park. Under the old oak tree, Lily and Rose slept curled up together, their small bodies trembling against the chilly morning air. Dew had soaked their thin clothes, and their empty stomachs rumbled with hunger. It was in this pitiful state that Mike Thompson found them. Mike, a 50-year-old man with a graying beard and tired eyes, was making his morning rounds through the park. Homeless for 5 years, he knew every corner of that place. The park was his refuge, his makeshift home away from the pitying and scornful stares of society. When he first saw the two small figures under the tree, Mike thought they were discarded dolls. But as he got closer, his heart pounded at the realization they were real children. "Oh my God," he murmured, kneeling beside them. "Hey girls, are you okay?" Lily was the first to wake, her blue eyes filling with fear at the sight of the bearded stranger. She instinctively clung to Rose, waking her in the process. "Who are you?" Lily asked, her voice trembling with fear and cold. "Where's our mommy?" Mike felt a lump form in his throat. He had seen a lot of misery during his years on the streets, but never anything like this. Two little girls, obviously abandoned, shivering with cold and hunger. "My name's Mike," he said gently, trying not to scare them. "I live here in the park." "Are you on your own?" Rose, now fully awake, began to cry softly. "Mommy said she was going to get food," she sobbed. "She promised she'd come back." Mike closed his eyes for a moment, feeling a surge of anger toward whoever had left these children. But he knew he couldn't afford to judge. Life on the streets had taught him that sometimes people did terrible things when they were desperate. "How long have you been here?" he asked gently. Lily, assuming the spokesperson role, replied, "Since yesterday morning. We're hungry and cold, Mr. Mike." Mike looked around, hoping to see some sign of the girl's parents, but the park was deserted except for a few early birds. He knew he had to do something, but years of living on the streets had made him cautious. Getting involved meant complications. It meant responsibility, and Mike had sworn, after losing everything, that he would never again allow himself to be responsible for anyone but himself. But as he looked at those frightened, hungry faces, Mike felt something break inside him. A distant memory of his former life, back when he was a different man, a man who cared. "Listen," he finally said, "I have a spot not far from here. It's not much, but it's dry, and there's a little food. Would you like to come with me until we figure out what to do?" The twins exchanged a look, having one of those silent conversations only twins seem able to have. Finally, Lily nodded. "Okay, Mr. Mike, but only if we stay together." Mike smiled, feeling a surge of tenderness he hadn't felt in a long time. "Of course. You two stick together, I promise." Carefully, he helped the girls to their feet. Lily, still exhausted and cold, insisted on walking by herself, clinging tightly to Rose's hand. Mike admired the little one's courage, reminded of his own daughter so long ago. No, he couldn't think about that now. Mike's home was an old abandoned shed behind the park. Years ago, it had stored gardening equipment, but now it served as shelter for the former professor. With some cardboard, donated blankets, and items found in the trash, Mike had turned the place into something resembling a home. "It's not much," he said as he opened the rusty door, "but it's safe and dry." The twins walked in hesitantly, their eyes widening as they took in the shed's interior. To Mike, it was just his humble abode. But for Lily and Rose, it felt like a treasure cave. There were piles of books in one corner, a few plants in tin cans by the windows, and even an old radio perched on a wooden box. "Wow," Rose whispered, her eyes shining when she saw the books. "You have a library." Mike couldn't help smiling. "Well, I used to be a teacher. A long time ago. I still like to read when I can." He quickly prepared a space for the girls, piling a few clean blankets in a corner. "You must be hungry. Let me see what I have here." As Mike rummaged through his meager supplies, his mind drifted to the past. He remembered his university classroom packed with students hungry for knowledge. He remembered the respect in their eyes, their thought-provoking questions, the heated discussions about literature and philosophy. And then, like a fast-forward film, he relived his downfall, the car accident that took his wife and daughter, the depression that followed, the alcoholism that destroyed his career, the downward spiral that led him to the streets. Mike shook his head, pushing away the painful memories. Now was not the time to get lost in the past. There were two frightened, hungry children who needed him. "Here," he said, offering the twins some crackers and a can of tuna. "It's not much, but it'll help with the hunger." Lily and Rose ate hungrily, as though they hadn't seen food in days. Mike watched them in silence, feeling a mix of compassion and concern. What would he do with them? Should he take them to the police? But what if they ended up in foster care, separated from each other? As the girls ate, Mike noticed their subtle personality differences. Lily, even while starving, offered the best pieces to Rose. Her eyes were always alert, scanning the surroundings as though looking for threats or opportunities. Rose, on the other hand, ate quietly, her gaze often returning to the pile of books in the corner. "Do you like stories?" Mike asked, trying to break the ice. Rose nodded enthusiastically, while Lily shrugged. "Rose loves them," Lily said. "I'd rather play outside." Mike smiled. "Well, we have both right here. Books and a whole park outside." After their makeshift meal, Mike helped the girls clean up as best he could with the limited resources he had. That was when the reality of the situation hit him full force. He, a homeless man, was now responsible for 2 little children. How could he care for them? How could he keep them safe and healthy? The following days were a constant challenge. Mike used all his street survival skills to take care of the twins. He scavenged behind restaurants for decent food, washed the girls' clothes in a nearby stream, and improvised toys from items found in the park. Lily, always energetic, became Mike's little helper. She followed him on his resource runs, quickly learning street survival tricks. Her boundless energy and natural curiosity reminded Mike of his own youth, before life had hardened him. "Mr. Mike," Lily asked one day while helping him gather bottles for recycling, "why do people throw away so many things?" Mike sighed, pondering how to explain society's consumerism and waste to a 5-year-old. "Sometimes people don't realize how valuable something is until it's too late," he finally answered. Rose, meanwhile, found solace in Mike's books. She spent hours flipping through pages, even though she couldn't read most of the words. Mike began reading to her every night, reviving his teaching skills as he explained concepts and answered her curious questions. One night, while reading The Little Prince to Rose, Mike noticed she was drawing. Using a piece of charcoal found near a park grill, Rose created surprisingly detailed images for her age. "That's amazing, Rose," Mike praised, noting how much her drawing of a fox resembled the one from the book. "So you have a real talent." Rose blushed at the compliment, a small smile lighting her usually serious face. "Thank you, Mr. Mike. I like drawing the stories you read." As the days turned into weeks, Mike found himself growing more and more attached to the twins. He knew he should take them to the authorities, give them a chance at a normal life. But the thought of being separated from them, of seeing them potentially split from each other, broke his heart. There was also the constant fear of being accused of kidnapping. Who would believe a homeless man was just trying to help? Mike knew his appearance and situation worked against him. One morning, about 3 weeks after he found the twins, Mike woke up to the sound of sirens close by. His heart raced when he saw a police car slowly patrolling the park. "Lily, Rose," he whispered urgently, waking the girls. "We need to hide." Quickly, he guided them to an emergency hiding spot he had prepared for situations like this, a small space between thick bushes, covered by a camouflage tarp. While crouching in the hideout, Mike could hear the officers calling Lily and Rose's names. His heart ached at the fear in the girls' eyes, but he knew he couldn't risk being caught with them. "Why are we hiding, Mr. Mike?" Lily asked in a whisper. "Can't they help us find Mommy?" Mike closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his decision. "It's complicated, Lily. Sometimes people don't understand situations like ours. They might think I did something bad by taking care of you." Rose, always perceptive, took Mike's hand. "But you saved us, Mr. Mike. You're good." Rose's simple words hit Mike like a punch to the gut. Was he good? After all he'd done in his life, after all his failures, did he truly deserve to be called good? When the officers finally left, Mike emerged from the hideout with the girls. He knew they couldn't go on like this forever. The twins needed more than he could give: education, medical care, a normal life. That night, as the girls slept, Mike made a painful decision. He would write a letter explaining the situation and take the twins to a shelter. It would be hard, but it was the right thing to do. But before he could put his plan into action, fate intervened in a way Mike never could have predicted. An unexpected figure would soon enter their lives, changing everything forever. As night fell over the park, Mike watched Lily and Rose sleep peacefully. Despite their difficult circumstances, the twins seemed to have found a sense of safety with him. Mike felt a mix of pride and sadness, knowing he would soon have to say goodbye. "I promise," he whispered to the sleeping girls, "that I'll do whatever's best for you no matter what." Little did Mike know that fate had other plans, and that the following morning would bring a meeting that would change the course of their lives forever. The next morning, Mike woke up early, determined to take the twins to a shelter. He prepared a simple breakfast and gently woke Lily and Rose. "Girls, we need to talk," Mike said. "You deserve more than I can give you. I'm going to take you somewhere safe, where you can have a better life. Lily and Rose reacted with fear and sadness. "But we want to stay with you," Lily exclaimed. Mike explained his decision, emphasizing it was for their own good. The twins, reluctant, agreed. As they were preparing to leave, a well-dressed man entered the park. He looked around as though searching for something. His eyes settled on Mike and the twins. Mike, instinctively protective, positioned himself in front of the girls. The stranger approached, recognition dawning on his face. "You must be Lily and Rose," the man said, his tone gentle yet firm. "I'm James. I've been looking for you." Mike tensed, ready to protect the twins. Sensing his defensiveness, James quickly explained his presence. "I'm a philanthropist," James said. "I heard about 2 missing girls and decided to help with the search. I never expected to find them like this." Still wary, Mike questioned James's intentions. Sensing the delicate situation, James offered a solution that would change everyone's fate. "I can offer help for all of you," James said. "A safe place, education for the girls, and a chance for you to start over, Mr. "Mike," answered the former teacher, still cautious but intrigued by the offer. The twins, sensing a shift in the air, looked hopefully at Mike. He hesitated, years of distrust clashing with the possibility of a better future. Finally, Mike nodded. "We'll hear what you have to say, James." As the sun rose higher in the sky, the 4 of them left the park together, walking toward an uncertain but hopeful future. James Blackwood watched Mike and the twins in the park, intrigued. The billionaire philanthropist felt an inexplicable connection to the scene, recalling his own difficult childhood. Born in a poor neighborhood, James faced adversity from an early age. His alcoholic father left the family when James was 8. His mother, Lucy, worked 2 jobs to support them. Despite the hardships, James excelled at school. A dedicated teacher recognized his potential and guided him. With scholarships, James attended a prestigious university, earning degrees in business administration and computer science. His first venture, a financial management app, was an instant success. James reinvested the profits in promising startups, building a tech empire within a decade. Now 45, James devoted much of his fortune to philanthropy, focusing on education and support for disadvantaged communities. Watching Mike and the twins, James saw reflections of his own past and decided to approach them. "Hello," James said, carefully approaching. "My name is James. I couldn't help but notice you here in the park." Mike instinctively positioned himself in front of the girls, distrustful. James raised his hands in a placating gesture. "I don't mean any harm. In fact, I'd like to help." "Why?" Mike asked, still wary. James sighed, choosing honesty. "Because I've been in a similar position, not exactly the same, but close enough to understand." He briefly shared his story, from his impoverished childhood to his rise in business. "Now I have the means to make a difference," James concluded, "and I'd like to offer that help to you." Mike hesitated. Years on the streets had made him skeptical, but something about James's sincerity touched him. "What exactly are you offering?" Mike asked. "For starters, a safe place to stay," James replied. "I have an empty apartment you can use. I can also help with a job, education for the girls, whatever is needed." Lily and Rose, listening intently, exchanged hopeful glances. "This seems too good to be true," Mike muttered. James smiled understandingly. "I get it. How about we start with lunch? We can talk more, and you can decide if you want my help." Mike glanced at the twins, seeing the hope in their eyes. Finally, he nodded. "All right, we'll have lunch and talk." Over lunch at a nearby cafe, James shared more about his foundation and philanthropic projects. Gradually, Mike lowered his guard, impressed with James's genuine compassion. The twins were fascinated by James, peppering him with curious questions about his life and work. Lily, in particular, was enthralled by James's stories of technology and innovation. "Did you really invent a phone that can talk to people?" Lily asked, her eyes shining with admiration. James laughed. "Well, not exactly. My company developed an app that makes it easier for people to communicate. But the basic idea of a phone has been around a long time." Rose, quieter, observed James carefully. She finally mustered the courage to ask a question. "Mr. James, do you have a family?" The question caught James off guard. He hesitated before answering. "No, Rose. I never married or had children. My work has always been my priority." Mike noticed a flicker of sadness in James's eyes, but it disappeared quickly. By the end of the meal, Mike made his decision. "We accept your help, James," he said, "but I want you to know I plan to repay it somehow." James smiled. "I'm sure we can work something out. For now, let's focus on getting you off the streets." As they headed to the apartment, James felt a mix of satisfaction and responsibility. He knew this decision would change not only Mike's and the twins' lives, but his own as well. On the way, James couldn't help reflecting on his own journey. He remembered his early struggles, sleeping in his car while trying to launch his first startup. He recalled the despair when it all seemed about to collapse, and the euphoria when he landed his first big investment. Above all, James remembered the people who had helped him along the way. The teacher who saw his potential, the investor who believed in his vision, the mentor who guided him through the ups and downs of the business world. Now he had the chance to be that person for Mike and the twins. Arriving at the apartment, James opened the door and let Mike and the girls walk in first. The apartment was spacious and well furnished, with 2 bedrooms, a cozy living room, and a modern kitchen. Lily and Rose darted off to explore, their laughter echoing through the space. Mike stood in the doorway, clearly impressed and slightly uncomfortable. "This is a lot," Mike said softly. "I don't know how we'll ever afford it." James placed a reassuring hand on Mike's shoulder. "Don't worry about that for now. Think of this as a fresh start. We'll work together to get you on your feet." Mike nodded, still a bit overwhelmed. "Thank you, James. Really, I don't know how to thank you." James smiled. "Seeing you thrive is thanks enough. Now, how about a tour?" As they showed Mike and the twins around, James explained his plans to help the family. "Tomorrow, I'll arrange for medical checkups for all of you. We'll also get new clothes and whatever supplies you need. Next week, we can start looking for schools for the girls and job opportunities for you, Mike." Mike seemed a bit overwhelmed by it all. "James, this is very generous, but I don't want to be a burden. I can work. I'll do anything to help pay for this." James nodded, understanding. "I get it, Mike, and I promise we'll find a way for you to contribute. But for now, the most important thing is for you to settle in and recover. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say." At that moment, Lily and Rose came running back to the living room, their faces glowing with excitement. "Mr. James, Mr. James," Lily cried. "There's a huge bathtub in the bathroom. Can we take a bath in it?" James laughed. "Of course you can. In fact, why don't we do that right now? I'm sure a warm bath will feel good for all of you." While Mike helped the girls with their bath, James headed to the kitchen to prepare a simple dinner with the supplies he'd brought. As he cooked, he couldn't help listening to the laughter and conversation coming from the bathroom. The sound filled him with a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. After dinner, with the girls already asleep in their new bedrooms, James and Mike sat in the living room for a more serious conversation. "Mike," James began, "I know all this must seem surreal, and I understand if you still have doubts or concerns. I want you to know I'm here to help, not judge or control." Mike nodded slowly. "I appreciate that, James. And you're right. This all feels like a dream. Part of me keeps expecting to wake up back in that shed at the park." James smiled sympathetically. "That's perfectly normal. But I can assure you this is real. And as for the future, well, let's face it one day at a time. Tomorrow, after the medical exams and shopping, why don't we talk about your skills and interests? Maybe we can find a job that really fits your talents." Mike looked surprised. "How so you actually care about what I want to do?" "Of course," James replied. "Mike, you're not just a charity case to me. The 3 of you are people with dreams, skills, and potential. My goal is to help you realize that potential." Mike was silent for a moment, emotion thick in his voice. "You know, James, I used to be a teacher. I taught English literature at a university. Feels like it was a lifetime ago." James leaned forward, intrigued. "A teacher? That's fascinating, Mike. What happened?" Mike sighed deeply. It's a long story. It involves loss, depression, some bad decisions. But the most important thing is I lost my way. I lost my passion for teaching, for life in general. James nodded compassionately. And now? Do you still miss teaching? Mike glanced toward the bedrooms where the girls slept. You know, these last few months, caring for Lily and Rose, reading to them, teaching them. I think I've rediscovered something I thought was gone forever. James smiled. That's wonderful, Mike. Maybe we can explore ways for you to start teaching again. Not necessarily at a university right away, but there are plenty of ways to educate and inspire. Mike looked at James, a mix of hope and caution in his eyes. You really think that's possible? After everything? Mike, James said firmly, I believe everyone deserves a second chance, and from what I've seen, in how you care for these girls, you definitely have a lot to offer as an educator. Mike swallowed hard, visibly moved. Thank you, James. Really, thank you. James stood, extending a hand to Mike. Don't mention it. Now, we should rest. We've got a big day tomorrow. As he prepared to leave, James paused at the door. Oh, and Mike, I left my phone number on the kitchen table. If you need anything at any time, don't hesitate to call. Mike nodded, grateful. Good night, James. And thanks again for everything. James smiled one last time before heading out. As he walked to his car, he couldn't shake a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Helping Mike and the twins wasn't just another philanthropic project. It felt more personal, more meaningful. Yet, as he drove home, James couldn't quell a nagging unease. The twins' story, how they ended up in the streets with Mike, still intrigued him. He sensed there was more to the story than met the eye, and part of him was determined to uncover the truth. Arriving at his house, James went straight to his office. He sat at his desk and picked up the phone, dialing a familiar number. Hello, Sarah. It's James. Sorry to call so late, Wang, but I need your services. Yes, it's a new case. 2 little girls, twins, about 5 years old. I want a full investigation into their origins. Discretion is crucial. Yes, we can discuss details tomorrow. Thanks, Sarah. Hanging up, James leaned back in his chair, his thoughts a mix of hope and worry. He knew he was getting deeply involved, maybe more than he should. But something about Mike and the twins affected him in a way he couldn't fully explain. Let's hope for the best, James murmured to himself, before finally heading off to bed. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Mike lay on the couch, unable to sleep. His mind raced with the day's events, with the incredible shift in their circumstances. He rose quietly and tiptoed to the girls' room. Lily and Rose slept soundly, their faces peaceful for the first time in weeks. Mike felt a wave of emotion seeing them safe and comfortable. He knew accepting James's help had been the right choice, whatever the future held. I promise, Mike whispered to the sleeping twins, I'll do everything I can to give you the life you deserve. With that silent promise, Mike returned to the couch, finally feeling the weight of the day's events. As he drifted off, his last thoughts were of gratitude for James, for this second chance, and for the 2 little lives that had given his own a new sense of purpose. Night wore on, wrapping the city in darkness. In 3 different places, the mansion of James Dyers, the new apartment, and a small home in a distant neighborhood where a young mother wept for her lost daughters, fate was in motion, weaving a web of connections soon to surface, changing everyone's lives forever. The next morning, James returned to the apartment. He accompanied Mike and the twins to their medical checkups and then out shopping for clothes and supplies. Throughout the day, James and Mike discussed future plans, including the possibility of Mike returning to teaching. The twins were thrilled by their new experiences, especially the idea of going to school. James watched the interaction between Mike and the girls, noting the strong bond they had formed. Before leaving, James reaffirmed his commitment to helping the family. He promised continued support and said he would work to create opportunities for them all. As James departed, he reflected on the situation's complexity and the investigation he had started. He knew the coming days would bring challenges and possibly surprising revelations. In the following weeks, Mike and the twins faced significant changes. James found Mike a job as a custodian at his company. Initially uncomfortable, Mike soon adapted, grateful for the chance. The twins were enrolled in a local school. Lily, outgoing, quickly made friends. Rose, more timid, struggled at first but found comfort in the library. The first days at school brought challenges. Lily experienced teasing because of her donated clothing, but her strong personality helped her overcome it. Rose impressed teachers with her detailed drawings. Mike, as at his new job, rediscovered his passion for learning. He began studying in his spare time, dreaming of returning to teaching. James watched the family's progress with satisfaction, but remained intrigued by the mystery of the twins' origin. Discreetly, he continued the private investigation, determined to uncover more about their past. At night, Mike reflected on the changes in their lives. The twins slept peacefully, exhausted after days full of new experiences. James dropped by for a visit, bringing news about the investigation's progress. He revealed that the investigators had found promising leads about the twins' background. Mike expressed gratitude but also concern about what these discoveries might mean for his future with the girls. James assured Mike of his continued support, regardless of the outcome. As James left, Mike felt a mix of hope and apprehension. He knew the coming days might bring revelations that would once again transform their lives. James kept up his regular visits, monitoring the family's progress and the ongoing investigation. Mike and the twins adapted well to their new life, though they faced occasional hurdles. One evening, James shared a significant discovery from the investigators. They had located information about the twins' biological mother. Mike grew anxious, fearing he might lose the girls. James assured Mike that he would continue supporting them, no matter the results. He proposed a plan to address the situation legally, safeguarding everyone's interests. The chapter ended with Mike holding the sleeping twins, determined to face any obstacle to keep them safe and happy. James left, preparing for the complexities that would come with these new findings. James Blackwood sat in his luxurious office, staring through the panoramic window that offered a breathtaking view of the city. His fingers tapped restlessly on the polished mahogany desk, thoughts spinning over what he was about to do. He picked up the phone and dialed a familiar number. "Sarah, it's James. I need you to personally handle an investigation for me. It's delicate." On the other end of the line, Sarah Blackstone, owner of the renowned Blackstone Investigation Agency, listened attentively as James explained the situation with the twins and Mike. "Understood, James," Sarah replied, her voice calm and professional. "I'll assemble a discreet team and get started immediately. You'll have regular updates." Meanwhile, in a modest apartment across the city, Mike Thompson woke with a start, cold sweat trickling down his brow. Another nightmare about his days on the streets. He glanced at the clock, 3:47 a.m. Sighing, he rose quietly and went to the girls' bedroom. Lily and Rose slept soundly, wrapped in colorful blankets James had bought for them. Mike smiled, feeling a surge of love and protectiveness that still surprised him with its intensity. He remembered how things had been just a few weeks ago, sleeping in an abandoned shed, always with one eye open, fearing someone might harm or separate them. Now they had a roof over their heads, food on the table, and most importantly, a chance for a better future, all thanks to James, a man Mike barely knew, who had changed their lives in ways he was still trying to comprehend. Mike returned to the living room, knowing he wouldn't be able to sleep. He picked up one of the books James had left for him, a poetry anthology. His eyes skimmed the familiar pages, words he used to teach coming back to him. For a moment, he allowed himself to dream of possibly teaching again someday. The next morning, Mike made breakfast for the twins. Lily, ever energetic, bounced out of bed as soon as she smelled pancakes. "Good morning, Uncle Mike," she exclaimed, hugging him around the waist. "Can I help make the juice?" Mike smiled, ruffling the girl's hair. "Of course you can, little one. Go grab the oranges from the fridge." Rose appeared a few minutes later, rubbing sleepy eyes. She sat at the table, watching Lily and Mike work together in the kitchen. "I had a weird dream," Rose said quietly. Mike and Lily paused, turning their attention to her. "What kind of dream, honey?" Mike asked gently. Rose hesitated for a moment. I dreamed about Mommy. She was crying and saying she was sorry. A heavy silence fell over the kitchen. Mike felt his heart clench. He knew the girls still thought of their mother, still felt the pain of abandonment, even though they rarely spoke of it. Come here, Rose, Mike said, opening his arms. Rose ran to him, burying her face in his chest. Lily joined the hug, wrapping her arms around her sister and Mike. It's okay to have those dreams, Mike said softly, and it's okay to miss your mom. But I want both of you to know that I'm here now, and I always will be. Nothing will separate us. The girls nodded, tightening the hug for a moment before pulling away. Mike drew a deep breath, forcing a smile. Now, how about those pancakes? The rest of the morning passed normally. Mike took the girls to school, watching proudly as they ran off to join their new friends on the playground. Lily, always sociable, was already at the center of a group of laughing children. Rose, more reserved, found her spot with a small group near the library. Mike waved goodbye one last time before turning to head to work. His new job as a custodian at James's company wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work and gave him a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Meanwhile, in his office, James was receiving the first substantial report from Sarah. We managed to find the twins' birth records, Sarah explained, handing James a folder. The mother is Amanda Suarez, currently 25 years old. The father is listed as unknown. James nodded, flipping through the documents. His heart nearly stopped when he saw a photo attached to the file. It was a younger Amanda, likely taken a few years ago. Long-buried memories began to surface. James, Sarah's voice drew him back to the present. There's more. Amanda briefly worked at your company about 5 years ago. She was an intern in the marketing department. James closed his eyes, feeling a wave of dizziness. He remembered Amanda now, young, bright, full of innovative ideas. He recalled a company party, too much alcohol, an intimate conversation in his office. James, are you all right? Sarah asked, clearly worried. James opened his eyes, forcing himself to remain composed. Yes, I'm okay. Just surprised. Go on, please. Sarah studied him for a moment before continuing. Amanda disappeared soon after abandoning the twins. We're tracking her movements, but she covered her tracks well. James nodded, his mind spinning with the implications of what he'd just learned. Keep looking, Sarah. We need to find her. In the weeks that followed, James threw himself into work, trying to distract himself from the unsettling revelations. He continued visiting Mike and the twins regularly, watching with a mix of pride and unease as they adapted to their new life. Mike was thriving at his new job. James observed him interacting with other employees, always polite and hard-working. Sometimes he caught Mike reading during his breaks, literature, history, science. The former teacher's agile mind clearly hungered for knowledge. The twins were also progressing. Lily had become one of the most popular kids in her class, always at the center of activities and games. Rose, though quieter, excelled academically. Her teachers praised her creativity and artistic ability, but not everything was perfect. Mike still struggled with occasional nightmares, echoes of his time on the streets. The twins, though happy in their new life, sometimes woke up crying for their mother. James felt increasingly connected to this little makeshift family. He found himself thinking about them constantly, worrying about their well-being and dreaming about their future. It was a new and somewhat frightening feeling for the solitary billionaire. Finally, nearly 2 months after the investigation began, Sarah walked into James's office wearing a grave expression. "We found her," she said without preamble, placing a folder on James's desk. James picked up the folder with trembling hands. Inside was a detailed report and several photos. The first photo showed a young woman with disheveled blonde hair and dark circles under her eyes. But there was no doubt. It was Amanda. "Where?" James asked, his voice hoarse. "She's living in a small town a few hours away," Sarah explained. "Working as a waitress in a local restaurant. From what we gathered, she's struggled with depression and substance abuse since abandoning the twins." James studied the photo, a complex mix of emotions welling up inside him. Anger at the girl's abandonment, Compassion for Amanda's obvious struggles, fear of what her existence might mean for Mike and the twins' future. "What do you want to do, James?" Sarah asked gently. James remained silent for a long moment, weighing his options. Finally, he looked at Sarah, determination in his eyes. "Set up a meeting," he said. "I need to speak with her in person." Sarah frowned. "James, I have to warn you about the legal risks. If Amanda decides to fight for custody of the twins—" "I know," James interrupted. "But I have to do this. I need to understand everything." Sarah nodded reluctantly. "I'll arrange it, but James, be careful." That night, James visited Mike and the twins. He watched as Mike helped them with their homework, laughing and joking. The apartment, once sterile and impersonal, was now filled with life. The twins' drawings decorated the walls, books and toys were scattered around the living room. After the girls were in bed, James and Mike sat on the balcony, sipping coffee. "How are things going, Mike?" James asked. Mike smiled, a genuine smile lighting up his tired face. "Surprisingly well, James. The girls are happy, learning so much, and me, well, I'm starting to feel like myself again. Like the person I used to be before everything went wrong." James nodded, feeling a pang of guilt. He knew he had to tell Mike about Amanda and the investigation, but looking at the man before him, seeing the peace and happiness in his eyes, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Not yet. "I'm happy to hear that, Mike," James said instead. "You deserve all the happiness in the world." Mike looked at James, gratitude shining in his eyes. "All thanks to you, James. We'll never be able to thank you enough for what you've done." James felt his heart tighten. "You don't owe me anything, Mike. Seeing you happy and thriving is all I could ask for." They fell silent for a moment, gazing at the city lights below. Finally, Mike spoke again. "You know, I've been thinking a lot lately, about the future, about what I want to do with my life." James turned to him, interested. "And what have you decided?" Mike hesitated for a moment before continuing. I think I want to teach again, not necessarily at a university, at least not right away, maybe at a night school, or by tutoring. Just the thought of being in a classroom again, sharing knowledge, helping people learn and grow. It excites me in a way I haven't felt in years." James smiled, feeling a rush of pride. "That's wonderful, Mike. And if that's what you want, I'll do whatever I can to help make it happen." Mike looked at James, tears threatening to spill. "You've already done so much for us, James. I can't ask for more." James placed a hand on Mike's shoulder. "You're not asking, Mike. I'm offering. Because that's what friends do." Mike nodded, too moved to speak. They sat there, content in the silence, until Mike finally rose to go to bed. James stayed on the balcony a while longer, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. He knew his actions in the next few days could change everything. Meeting Amanda could bring to light truths that would forever alter the course of their lives. But looking back into the apartment, hearing the soft sounds of the twins sleeping and Mike moving quietly down the hall, James knew he would do anything to protect this little family. Even if it meant facing his own past and the consequences of his actions. With a long sigh, James stood and left the apartment, mentally preparing himself for what was to come. In the days that followed, James immersed himself in preparations for the meeting with Amanda. He consulted lawyers, psychologists, even a family mediator. He wanted to be ready for any possible scenario. Meanwhile, life went on for Mike and the twins, unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon. Lily brought home her first A in math, proudly showing her test to Mike and James. Rose won her school's art contest, her delicate drawing of a park filled with happy families warming everyone's hearts. Mike, inspired by his conversation with James, began researching teacher certification programs and local night school opportunities. He spent his free evenings studying, rekindling his passion for learning and teaching. Finally, the day of the meeting with Amanda arrived. James woke early, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He chose one of his simplest suits, not wanting to overwhelm Amanda with his wealth. The chosen spot for the meeting was a quiet cafe on the outskirts of the city. James arrived an hour early, his heart pounding in his chest. He ordered a coffee, barely touching it, his eyes constantly flicking to the door. Right on time, the cafe door opened. James felt his heart stop for a moment as he saw Amanda walk in. She looked thinner than he remembered, dark circles under her eyes. But there were still traces of the vibrant young woman he once knew. Amanda saw him and froze momentarily, recognition and shock crossing her face. Slowly, she walked toward James's table, sitting down silently. For a few moments, neither spoke. The tension between them was palpable, filled with unspoken emotions. Finally, James broke the silence. "Thank you for coming, Amanda." Amanda nodded, her gaze fixed on the table. "Why did you look for me, James? After all these years?" James took a deep breath. "It's about your daughters, Amanda, Lily and Rose." Amanda's head snapped up, her eyes wide with fear and hope. "You found them. Are they okay? Please tell me they're okay." James nodded. "They're safe and well cared for, but we need to talk about what happened and what happens next." Tears began sliding down Amanda's face. "I never wanted to leave them. I was desperate, depressed. I thought they'd be better off without me." James listened as Amanda poured out her regrets, describing her battle with depression, poverty, and the despair that led her to make a decision she regretted every single day. When she finished, James spoke gently. "Amanda, there's something else you need to know. Something about the girl's father." Amanda looked at him, confused. "Their father? But I never knew who—" James interrupted kindly. "Amanda, I believe I'm Lily and Rose's father." The silence that followed was deafening. Amanda stared at James, shock and realization slowly dawning on her face. "The company party," she whispered. I never thought—" James nodded gravely. "I didn't know either, until recently. But the resemblance is undeniable." Amanda covered her face with her hands, silent sobs shaking her shoulders. James waited patiently, knowing she needed time to process. Finally, Amanda looked up, her eyes red but determined. "What now, James?" James sighed. "That depends on us, Amanda. The girls are happy and safe. They have a loving home with a man named Mike who found them and cared for them. But they also deserve to know their mother and their biological father." Amanda nodded slowly. "I want to see them. I want to be part of their lives, but I don't want to destroy the stability they finally have." James offered a small smile. "We can work on that together, Amanda, step by step. The important thing is Lily and Rose's well-being." As the sun set outside the cafe, James and Amanda continued their conversation, carefully planning the next steps. Both knew the road ahead would be complicated and emotionally charged, but they were determined to do what was best for the twins. The chapter ended with James and Amanda leaving the cafe, a tentative agreement in place. James knew he still had to tell Mike about these discoveries, a conversation he dreaded but knew was necessary. As he drove home, James reflected on how much his life had changed in the past few months. What started as an act of charity had turned into a journey of self-discovery, redemption, and above all, unconditional love. With renewed determination, James prepared for the challenges ahead. He knew that together, they could find a way to build a united, loving family for Lily and Rose, no matter how unconventional it might be. James Blackwood straightened his tie as he surveyed the small cafe's exterior. His heart thudded with a mix of anxiety and apprehension. Taking a deep breath, he went inside, choosing a discreet table at the back. Each passing minute increased the weight on his shoulders. He had located Amanda, the twins' mother, and was about to confront her with questions that could change everything. Right at 3 tit tav, the cafe door opened. Amanda walked in, scanning the room until she spotted James. For a moment she hesitated, as if considering turning around and leaving. Then, squaring her shoulders, she walked toward him. "Hello, James," she said softly, taking a seat across from him. James studied Amanda's face. Time had not been kind to her. Deep circles under her eyes and lines of worry creased her forehead. Still, he could see hints of the vibrant young woman he'd known years ago. "Thank you for coming, Amanda," James said, his voice controlled. A tense silence fell between them. A waitress arrived, briefly breaking the tension. Both ordered coffee, more for something to do than out of real desire. Finally, James spoke. "Amanda, I'm sure you're wondering why I reached out after all these years." Amanda nodded slowly. "I admit I was surprised by your message, and a little scared." James leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. "It's about Lily and Rose." The effect was immediate. Amanda paled, her hands trembling visibly. You found them. They're okay." "Please tell me they're okay." "They're safe," James said quickly. "They're being cared for." Tears welled up in Amanda's eyes. "Thank God," she whispered. "Not a day goes by that I don't think of them, that I don't regret." "Why, Amanda?" James asked, his tone a mix of compassion and reproach. "Why abandon them?" Amanda lowered her gaze, shame evident on her face. "I was desperate, James, depressed, broke, with no support. I thought they'd have a better chance without me." James felt a pang of guilt. If only he'd known. If only he'd paid more attention. "Amanda," he said gently, "there's something else we need to discuss. Something about the girl's father." Amanda looked at him, confused. "The father? But I never knew who—" James cut her off softly. "Amanda, I believe I'm Lily and Rose's father." The silence that followed was deafening. Amanda stared at James, her eyes widening with the shock of his revelation. "No," she whispered. "That can't be—" "The company party, almost 6 years ago," James said gently. We spent the night together." Recognition flickered on Amanda's face, followed quickly by a storm of emotions. Shock, fear, shame. I didn't know it was you," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I was so drunk that night, and when I found out I was pregnant, you were already gone on a long business trip. I tried to reach you, but I never responded," James finished, guilt lacing his voice. "Amanda, if I'd known—" "No," Amanda exclaimed, surprising James with her vehemence. "Don't say that. You didn't know. It's my fault. I should have tried harder, should have been stronger." Tears rolled freely down Amanda's cheeks now. James felt a knot tighten in his throat. "Why didn't you come to me when things got tough?" he asked softly. Amanda let out a bitter laugh. "And say what, James? Hey, remember that intern you slept with once? Surprise, you're the father of twin girls? You were James Blackwood, the billionaire philanthropist." "I was nobody." James closed his eyes, feeling the weight of years of misunderstandings and missed opportunities. When he opened them again, he saw Amanda watching him intently. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. James took a deep breath, trying to organize his thoughts. Discovering his paternity had hit him like a freight train, and he was still struggling to process it all. I don't know," he admitted honestly. "This changes everything, Amanda. The girls, they're my daughters." "Our daughters," Amanda nodded slowly, tears still falling. "I want to see them, James. I know I don't deserve it after what I did, but they're my life. Not a day goes by that I don't regret what I did." James felt a wave of compassion for Amanda. Despite her actions, he could see the genuine love and remorse in her eyes. "They're with a man named Mike," James explained. "He found them in the park after they were left alone. He's been taking care of them ever since." Amanda covered her face with her hands, sobs shaking her body. "Oh God," she murmured. "My girls, they must hate me." James gently placed a hand on her arm. "They don't know, Amanda. Mike never told them about the abandonment. He protected them from that." Amanda looked at James, surprise and gratitude in her eyes. "This Mike, he seems like a good man." "He is," James agreed. "He loves the girls as if they were his own, and they love him too." Silence fell between them again, both lost in thought. James was trying to reconcile his new reality as a father with his responsibilities to Mike and the twins. Amanda seemed to be wrestling with her guilt and her desire to reconnect with her daughters. Finally, James spoke. "Amanda, we have to think carefully about how to handle this. The girls are happy and stable right now. We can't just barge into their lives and turn everything upside down. Amanda nodded, wiping away her tears. I know. I don't want to hurt them more than I already have. But James, I need to be part of their lives. I need to try to fix what I did. James took a deep breath. Let's do this step by step, okay? First, I need to talk to Mike. He deserves to know the truth before we make any decisions. And then? Amanda asked, a note of hope creeping into her voice. Then the three of us, you, me, and Mike, sit down to discuss how to proceed. The girls are our priority here, Amanda. We have to do what's best for them. Amanda nodded, determination replacing her earlier fear. I understand, and James, thank you for not judging me, for giving me this chance. James offered a slight smile. We all make mistakes, Amanda. The important thing is how we choose to correct them. They spent the next hour talking about practical details, exchanging phone numbers, scheduling another meeting. When they finally stood up to leave, both looked exhausted but had a renewed sense of purpose. I'll get in touch as soon as I've spoken to Mike, James promised, as they parted ways on the sidewalk outside the cafe. Amanda nodded. I'll be waiting. And James, please take good care of them until then. James watched Amanda leave, a swirl of emotions churning inside him. He was a father to two wonderful girls who had already captured his heart before he even knew they were his daughters. Now came the hardest part, telling Mike. James drove to Mike's apartment on autopilot, his mind rehearsing different scenarios for the conversation to come. Once parked, he sat in the car for several minutes, gathering the courage to do what needed to be done. Finally, he stepped out and climbed the stairs. Mike answered the door with a smile, which quickly turned to concern at James's serious expression. James, what's wrong? Mike, can we talk? It's important. Mike nodded, leading James inside. The twins were still at school, leaving the apartment silent and tense. Sitting in the living room, James took a deep breath before starting. Mike, I've discovered something about the girls, about their biological parents. Mike straightened, alert. What? How? James briefly explained the investigation and finding Amanda. Then, with a heavy heart, he revealed the truth about his paternity. The silence that followed was overwhelming. Mike stared at James, shock and disbelief written on his face. You're their father, Mike finally managed, his voice barely audible. James nodded miserably. I didn't know, Mike. I swear I didn't know until now. Mike stood abruptly, pacing the room. James watched anxiously, dreading his reaction. Are you going to take them away? Mike asked suddenly, turning to face James. No, James exclaimed, surprised. Mike, I would never do that. You're their family. You saved them, cared for them when no one else did. Mike seemed to relax slightly, though the tension remained. Then, what happens now? James sighed. Honestly, I don't know. But I do know I want to be part of their lives. And Amanda wants to reconnect with them too. But you, Mike, you're crucial to their well-being. We need to figure out how to make this work, for Lily and Rose. To James's surprise, Mike sat next to him on the couch, placing a hand on his shoulder. James, I know this must be a shock for you too. And, well, I appreciate your honesty. A lot of men in your position would just take the girls and go. James looked at Mike, gratitude filling his eyes. I'd never do that to you, Mike, or to the girls. They love you. You're their father in every way that matters. Mike nodded slowly. So, what do you suggest? I think we should meet, you, me, and Amanda, and talk about introducing these changes in the girls' lives as gently as possible. Maybe we should see a family therapist, someone who can guide us on how best to approach this. Mike agreed. That sounds reasonable. James, thank you for being honest with me. I know it couldn't have been easy. James offered a sad smile. It's the least I can do, Mike. You've been an incredible father to them. I hope we can work together to give Lily and Rose all the love and support they deserve. The two men looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. The road ahead would be difficult, but both were determined to do what was best for Lily and Rose. In the days that followed, James arranged a meeting between himself, Mike, and Amanda. It was tense at first, with Amanda battling her guilt and Mike still processing the recent revelations. But as they talked, sharing their worries and hopes for the future, a sense of unity began to form. All three wanted the best for Lily and Rose and were prepared to set aside their differences to achieve it. They decided to consult a family therapist specialized in complex custody situations. The plan was to introduce Amanda gradually into the girls' lives, initially as a family friend. James would continue in his current role, but with increasing involvement in Lily and Rose's day-to-day routine. The whole truth would only be revealed to the twins when the therapist deemed they were emotionally ready to handle it. Meanwhile, James began the legal process of officially recognizing his paternity, working closely with lawyers to ensure that everyone's rights were respected and that the twins' best interests were always the priority. The chapter ended with James, Dean, Micah, and Amanda sitting together in the apartment's living room, watching Lily and Rose play in the backyard through the window. The future was still uncertain, filled with potential complications and emotional challenges. But there was also hope that together they could create a loving, stable environment for the twins, no matter how unconventional their family might be. James looked at Mike and Amanda, seeing in their faces the same resolve he felt. They would make this work for Lily and Rose. The journey would be hard, but it was worth it, and it was only just beginning. "So," James said quietly, "how do we tell the girls?" Mike and Amanda exchanged glances, and then Mike spoke. "One step at a time. First, let them meet Amanda as our friend. Then, well, we'll see how they react." Amanda nodded, tears shining in her eyes. "I just want them to know they're loved by all of us." James smiled, feeling a wave of emotion. "They will, Amanda. We'll make sure of it." As the sun set outside, the three adults continued talking, carefully planning the next steps of their unusual journey. "I think we should arrange a casual meet-up at the park," Mike suggested. "The girls love playing there, and it would be a relaxed setting for Amanda to meet them." James and Amanda agreed with the idea. They decided the meeting would take place the coming weekend, giving everyone time to prepare emotionally. "So remember," James said, "we'll follow the therapist's advice. No pressure, no sudden revelations, just a normal day at the park." Amanda nodded, wiping away a tear. "I can't wait to see them, even if they don't know who I really am yet." Mike placed a comforting hand on Amanda's shoulder. "They'll love you, Amanda. Just be yourself." As they wrapped up the evening, the three shared a look of mutual understanding. The road ahead would be challenging, but they were united in their love for Lily and Rose. James was the last to leave. Standing at the door, he looked at Mike. "Thank you," he said simply, "for everything." Mike nodded, a small smile on his face. "We're a family now, James. An unconventional one, but still a family." Those words echoed in James's mind as he left, his heart full of apprehension and hope for the future. The next chapter of their lives was about to begin, and he was determined to do right by his daughters and this new, unexpected family. The sun shone gently on the city park as James arrived, heart pounding. He spotted Mike and the twins near the playground, the girls laughing on the swings. Amanda hadn't arrived yet, and James could sense the tension in the air. "Uncle James!" Lily shouted, jumping off the swing and running toward him. Rose followed more cautiously, a shy smile on her face. James knelt to hug them both. "Hello, my sweet girls. Having fun?" Mike approached, his expression a blend of anxiety and resolve. "They're excited," he said quietly. "They haven't stopped asking about the special friend they're meeting today." James nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. At that moment, he saw Amanda entering the park, looking hesitant and nervous. "There she is," James murmured to Mike. Turning to the girls, he smiled. "Girls, how about we go meet our friend?" Lily agreed eagerly, while Rose clung to Mike's hand, suddenly shy. As they approached, James could see tears in Amanda's eyes. She stopped, frozen, gazing at her daughters for the first time in months. "Hi," Amanda said softly, her voice trembling. "I'm Amanda. It's nice to meet you." Lily, ever outgoing, stepped forward. "Hi, Amanda. I'm Lily, and this is my sister, Rose. Do you want to play with us?" Amanda smiled through her tears. I'd love to, Lily. The next few hours blurred into a mix of play, laughter, and careful conversations. Amanda tried hard to connect with the twins, answering their questions and joining their games. James and Mike watched closely, stepping in when needed and silently offering their support. As the afternoon wore on, they gathered for a picnic. James knew it was time for the conversation they had planned so carefully. "Lily, Rose," he began softly, "there's something important we need to tell you." The girls looked at him curiously, sensing the change in tone. James took a deep breath. "You know every child has biological parents, right?" "Well, Amanda is your biological mother." The silence that followed was deafening. Lily and Rose looked from Amanda to Mike, confusion evident on their faces. "But Uncle Mike is our dad," Lily said, her voice shaking. Mike quickly hugged them both. "I'll always be your dad, girls. Nothing will change that. But Amanda is the mom who gave birth to you." Rose, ever perceptive, turned to James. "And you, Uncle James." James felt his heart clench. I'm your biological father. Rose, both of yours." The tears came then. Lily sobbed openly, while Rose curled into Mike's arms, silent but visibly shaken. Amanda moved hesitantly, wanting to comfort her daughters, but unsure if she'd be welcome. James placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, encouraging her. "I know this is a lot to take in," Amanda said softly. "And I know I've made mistakes, but I love you both more than anything, and I'm here now. If you'll let me, I'd like to be part of your lives." Lily looked at Amanda, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Will you leave again?" Amanda's heart broke at the question. "No, sweetheart." "Never again, I promise." Rose finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can we still live with Uncle Mike?" Mike pulled Rose close. "Of course, sweetheart. This will always be your home." James watched the scene, feeling both included and like an outsider. He desperately wanted to connect with his daughters, but he knew he had to respect their space and time. "Girls," he said gently, "I know this is a lot, but I want you to know that all of us, Amanda, Mike, and me, love you very much. We'll always do whatever's best for you." Lily and Rose nodded, still clinging to Mike, but their curious gazes shifted to James and Amanda. In the days and weeks that followed, the new family dynamic began to settle slowly. Amanda started attending regular therapy sessions with the girls, working to rebuild trust and their bond. James visited more frequently, learning to be a father through quiet reading sessions with Rose and energetic playtimes with Lily. Mike remained the family's rock, providing stability and unconditional love as the girls navigated their conflicting emotions. It wasn't easy. There were moments of tension, tears, and confusion, but there were also moments of laughter, hugs, and little joys that made it all worthwhile. One evening, as James prepared to leave after a visit, Lily surprised him with a tight hug. "Good night, Daddy," she whispered, before running back to her room. James stood there, overwhelmed, feeling he was finally finding his place in this unconventional but loving family. As he left the apartment, he and Mike shared a look of understanding. Both knew the road ahead would still be challenging, but they were united in their commitment to give Lily and Rose all the love and support they deserved. As the weeks passed, the new family dynamic solidified. The twins, although sometimes still confused and emotionally fragile, seemed to be adapting to Amanda and James's presence in their lives. One Sunday afternoon, everyone gathered at Mike's apartment for a family lunch. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and lively conversation. Lily proudly showed Amanda her latest drawing, while Rose quietly read a book next to James. Mike watched the scene from the kitchen, a gentle smile on his face. He still experienced moments of uncertainty, but seeing the girls' happiness reassured him they were on the right path. James approached Mike, offering to help with the dishes. "Thank you," James said softly, "for being so incredible through all this." Mike nodded, his expression earnest. "It's for the girls. It will always be for them." As the afternoon drew to a close and everyone prepared to leave, Lily and Rose hugged each adult in turn, including Amanda and James. "Next weekend?" Lily asked hopefully. Amanda smiled, tears in her eyes. Of course, sweetheart. We'll be here. As the door closed behind Amanda and James, Mike turned to the twins. So, girls, how are you feeling? Rose, ever reflective, answered first. It's different, but good, I think. Lily nodded enthusiastically. I like having a big family. Mike pulled them both into a hug, feeling a surge of love and protection. Remember, no matter what happens, you'll always have me. Always. The girls hugged him back, and in that moment, despite all the challenges and uncertainties, Mike knew they would be okay. This unconventional family, built on love, understanding, and patience, was only at the beginning of its journey together. The routine of this new, unconventional family was settling in when the unexpected happened. One autumn morning, Mike noticed Rose was quieter than usual, her face pale and eyes dull. Rose, honey, are you feeling all right? Mike asked, concern evident in his voice. Rose just shook her head, clutching her teddy bear more tightly. Mike placed a hand on her forehead, alarmed at how hot it felt. Lily, please stay with your sister while I call the doctor, Mike said, trying to remain calm. As Mike dialed the pediatrician's number, Lily sat beside Rose on the bed, holding her hand. You'll be okay, Rose, she whispered, attempting to sound confident despite the fear in her eyes. The doctor advised Mike to bring Rose to the hospital immediately, given how quickly her fever had spiked. Panicking, Mike called James and Amanda while getting ready to leave. James, it's Mike. Rose is sick. I'm taking her to the hospital. Can you come? James's voice was tense on the other end. On my way. Have you called Amanda? I will now. Please hurry. Mike then called Amanda, his voice trembling as he explained. Amanda promised to meet them at the hospital as soon as possible. On the drive to the hospital, Mike glanced in the rearview mirror every few seconds, checking on Rose lying in the back seat, with Lily holding her hand. Rose's face was flushed with fever, and her breathing sounded labored. Hang in there, sweetheart, Mike murmured, pressing the accelerator a bit harder. Arriving at the ER, Mike carried Rose in his arms, Lily following close behind. The medical staff acted quickly, taking Rose for immediate tests. James arrived moments later, worry etched on his usually composed face. How is she? He asked, placing a reassuring hand on Mike's shoulder. They took her for tests, Mike answered, voice shaking. We still don't know what's wrong. Amanda arrived soon after, breathless and wide-eyed with fear. Where is she? Where's my baby? Mike embraced her briefly, trying to offer comfort, even though he himself felt terrified. She's with the doctors. All we can do is wait. The next few hours were an agonizing wait. Lily curled up in a chair, eyes large and frightened, fixed on the doors through which Rose had disappeared. James paced back and forth, occasionally making phone calls, using his influence to ensure Rose got the best care possible. Amanda alternated between silent weeping and moments of fierce determination, swearing she would do anything to see her daughter well again. Finally, a doctor emerged, his expression serious. Family of Rose Soares? Everyone leaped to their feet. That's us, Mike said, flanked on either side by James and Amanda. Rose has a severe pneumonia, the doctor explained. We've started antibiotic treatment, but her condition is concerning. She'll need to remain hospitalized for constant monitoring. Amanda let out a muffled sob, and James instinctively embraced her. Mike, feeling his legs weaken, leaned against the nearest wall. Can we see her? Lily asked in a small voice, reminding them of her presence. The doctor gave her a gentle smile. Of course you can. She's sleeping right now, but I'm sure she'll be glad to have you close when she wakes up. The hospital room felt huge and intimidating with Rose lying in the bed, looking so small and frail, connected to tubes and monitors. Amanda rushed to the bedside, taking Rose's hand and pressing it to her lips. Mommy's here, my love, she whispered, tears sliding silently down her face. Mike stood on the other side of the bed, gently smoothing Rose's hair. James stood at the foot of the bed, worry and resolve etched into his features. Lily climbed carefully onto the bed, lying beside her sister and holding her other hand. The following days were a blur of tests, treatments, and sleepless nights. The family took shifts so Rose would never be alone. James used his connections to bring in specialists from across the country, determined not to leave anything to chance. I don't care about the cost, he said firmly, when a doctor mentioned an experimental treatment. Do whatever it takes. Amanda surprised everyone with her strength and devotion. She rarely left Rose's side, singing softly to her and telling stories, even when Rose was unconscious from the high fever. "Remember when we went to the zoo, Rose?" Amanda whispered, holding her daughter's hand. "You were so fascinated by the giraffes. You said you wanted to be tall like them when you grew up. Well, you're going to grow up, my love. You're going to be strong and tall and healthy. You just need to fight a little longer, okay?" Mike became the emotional anchor of the family. He comforted Lily, who was scared and confused, and offered words of support to Amanda and James during the hardest moments. One night, finding James alone in the waiting room with his head in his hands, Mike sat beside him. "Hey," he said gently, "how are you holding up?" James lifted his head, eyes red from exhaustion and worry. "I should be asking you that," he replied with a sad smile. "You've been so strong for all of us." Mike shook his head. "We're all being strong, that's what families do." James looked at Mike for a long moment. "You know, when I found out I was Lily and Rose's father, I was terrified. I didn't think I'd know how to be a dad. But watching you, Mike, you've taught me more about fatherhood in these last few weeks than any book or counselor could." Tears threatened to spill from Mike's eyes. "Thank you, James. That means a lot." The two men sat in silence for a moment, finding comfort in each other's presence. Meanwhile, Lily was fighting her own battles. She missed Rose terribly and couldn't fully understand why her sister couldn't just come home and get better. One afternoon, Amanda found Lily sitting alone in the hospital corridor, hugging her knees. "Hey, sweetie," Amanda said gently, sitting down beside her. "What are you doing out here?" Lily looked at Amanda, tears in her eyes. "Is it my fault Rose is sick?" Amanda was stunned. "Oh, sweetheart, no, of course it's not your fault. Why would you think that?" Lily sniffled. Because I wished I was an only child once. When Rose took my favorite doll without asking, I got mad and wished I didn't have a sister. And now she's sick, and it's my fault." Amanda's heart broke, hearing the fear and guilt in Lily's voice. She pulled the girl into a tight hug. "Lily, my love, listen to me. This is not your fault. Sometimes people get sick, and it's nobody's fault. Rose will get better, and when she does, she'll need her sister more than ever. You didn't do anything wrong, okay?" Lily nodded against Amanda's chest, softly sobbing. Amanda rocked her gently, murmuring words of comfort and love. As days turned into weeks, Rose's condition slowly began to improve. Her fever finally subsided, and she started having longer periods of consciousness. One morning, while Mike sat beside her bed reading quietly from one of her favorite books, Rose opened her eyes and offered a faint smile. "Dad?" she called, her voice hoarse but clear. Mike dropped the book, leaning forward anxiously over the bed. "Rose? Honey, you're awake?" Rose nodded slightly. "I'm thirsty," she whispered. Mike quickly got a cup of water with a straw, helping Rose take small sips. "How are you feeling, my love?" "Tired," Rose replied. "Where is everyone?" "They'll be so happy to see you awake," Mike said, tears of relief streaming down his face. "I'll go get them right now." Minutes later, the room was packed. Amanda openly wept with joy, covering Rose's face in kisses. James stood at the foot of the bed, a huge grin lighting up his tired face. Lily climbed onto the bed, hugging Rose with all her might. "You're back," Lily exclaimed. "I knew you'd come back." Rose smiled, still weak, but clearly happy to be surrounded by family. "I heard you," she said softly, "even when I was sleeping. I heard all the stories and songs. It helped me find my way back." There wasn't a dry eye in the room at that moment. The family gathered around Rose's bed, each touching her in some way, as if to reassure themselves she was truly there, truly getting better. The following weeks saw a slow but steady recovery. Rose had a long road ahead, but each day she grew stronger. True to his word, James ensured Rose got the best possible care, bringing in physical therapists and rehabilitation specialists to help her regain her strength. Amanda practically moved into the hospital, determined to be present for every moment of Rose's recovery. She learned from the nurses how to care for Rose, administer her medications, and help with her breathing exercises. Mike split his time between looking after Rose in the hospital and making sure Lily didn't feel neglected. He took Lily to school, helped with homework, and tried to maintain some sense of normalcy in their lives. Lily, for her part, became the joy of the pediatric wing. She befriended other hospitalized children, shared her toys, and told funny stories to make everyone laugh. Her resilience and kindness touched all those around her. Finally, after almost 2 months in the hospital, Rose was discharged. The day she came home was a celebration for the entire family. Amanda and Mike decorated the apartment with balloons and streamers. Lily made a huge welcome home sign, covered in hand-drawn hearts and flowers. James arrived carrying a stack of gifts, new books, games, and toys to keep Rose entertained during her recovery at home. When Rose entered the apartment, leaning on Mike for support, her eyes widened with surprise and delight. "All this is for me?" she asked, her voice still a bit weak but filled with emotion. "Of course, sweetheart," Amanda said, giving her a gentle hug. "We're so happy to have you back home." Rose's recovery continued at home, with regular visits from doctors and therapists. The family adapted to a new routine, each doing their part to help her heal. Inspired by the experience, James made a decision that would change not only their lives, but potentially the lives of many other families. "I want to start a foundation," he announced one evening as everyone gathered for dinner. "A foundation to help families in situations like ours, unconventional families facing medical and legal challenges." Mike looked at James with admiration. "That's an incredible idea, James." Amanda agreed enthusiastically. "Think of how many lives we could impact." Rose, who was listening intently, asked, "Can we help other kids who got sick like me?" James smiled at her. "Exactly, Rose. We can help a lot of kids and their families." Lily, not wanting to be left out, added, "I can draw the foundation's logo." Everyone laughed, the sound of their joy filling the apartment in a way it hadn't for months. In the following weeks, James worked tirelessly to establish the foundation. He hired lawyers to handle the legal aspects, consultants to develop support programs, and began fundraising among his business contacts. Inspired by the project, Mike decided it was time to return to education. He offered to work with the foundation, developing educational programs for children in complex family situations. "I want to use my experience as a teacher and as a father to make a difference," he explained to James. "These kids need someone who understands what they're going through." James was thrilled by the offer. "Mike, I can't think of anyone better for the job. Welcome aboard." Amanda, in turn, found her calling as a counselor for single mothers and abuse victims. Her own journey of redemption and healing made her especially empathetic to women facing similar challenges. "I want other women to know there's hope," she told Mike one evening. "That no matter how dark it seems, there's always a chance to start over." The twins, now 7, thrived under the love and support of their extended family. Lily remained extroverted and adventurous, always ready for new experiences. Rose, though still quieter, had gained a new confidence after her recovery. 1 year after Rose's illness, the family gathered for a big celebration. It was the twins' birthday, but also a celebration of everything they had overcome together. The backyard of Mike's home was decorated with balloons and colorful streamers. A large banner proclaimed, "Happy Birthday, Lily and Rose." A long table was covered with presents and a huge cake adorned with sugar flowers. Lily ran around excitedly, greeting all the guests, school friends, neighbors, and new friends they'd made through James's foundation. Rose, calmer, sat with a small group, proudly showing off her latest drawings. Mike watched the scene with a smile, remembering how it all began: 2 terrified little girls in a park, a homeless man trying to do the right thing. Who would have thought they'd end up here? Amanda approached, offering Mike a glass of lemonade. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. Mike smiled. "How lucky we are," he replied. "Look at them, Amanda. Look at the family we've built." Amanda nodded, tears of happiness in her eyes. "I never thought I'd have this back," she said softly. "Thank you for not giving up on me. On us." James joined them, carrying a plate of snacks. "Hey, you two," he said cheerfully. "No time to get sentimental. We've got a party to enjoy." The three laughed together, their easy camaraderie a testament to how far they'd come. As night fell, the house grew quiet, filled with a sense of peace and contentment. It was more than just the end of a birthday party. It was the celebration of a new beginning, of a family that had found its way through adversity and emerged stronger. And as the stars shone outside, the promise of a bright future hovered over the sleeping house, a future filled with love, laughter, and the certainty that, no matter what happened, they would always have one another. Mike, Amanda, and James gathered on the porch, gazing at the night sky. "You know," James said softly, "we've been through so much to get here. There were times I thought we wouldn't make it. But look at us now." Amanda smiled. "It's the power of forgiveness," she said, "and unconditional love." Mike nodded. "And a chosen family," he added. "Because in the end, that's what we are, a family that chose to be together no matter what." The three fell silent for a moment, absorbing the depth of what they'd achieved together. "Here's to the future," James finally said, raising his glass in a toast. "To our family," Amanda added. "To love," Mike concluded. Their glasses clinked softly in the night air, sealing their promise to continue this journey together, ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold with the strength of the love and unity they had forged. And so the chapter closed, not with an ending, but with the beginning of a new phase, a phase of hope, healing, and unconditional love, proving that sometimes the strongest families are those we choose to create together.